So what we are reading on page number 52 is one of the diary extracts of Anne Frank. So this is how it starts. It says, and this is on Saturday, 20th of June 1942. This is when she started writing a diary. Dearest Kitty, Kitty is referred to the diary. Our entire class is quacking in its boots. That means they are making a lot of noise, something that you guys also do. That means everybody is screaming and shouting, and there's a lot of chaos in the class. Quacking in the boots means shaking with fear and nervousness, and there's a lot of chaos. Everybody is in a different mode of emotion, I should say. The reason, of course, is the forthcoming meeting in which the teachers decide who will move up to the next form and who will be kept back. So basically, everybody is nervous and they're shouting and they become nervous. Is because there is a meeting. The teachers are in the middle of a meeting because this is the date this is the time when they are deciding about the result, as in who will pass from one form is class, and who will stay back in the same class, which means that who will fail. You know how you are nervous just before your results, something like that. Half of the class is making bets, and everybody is putting bets. Bets means that when you come to an agreement that if something happens which you intend and not intend, but which you um, firmly believe will happen. You put a certain amount of money. If that happens, that the other person will have to shell some money, give some money. If that doesn't happen, then you will have to give money. So half of the class is making bets. GN and I laugh ourselves silly at the two boys behind us, CN and Jacques, who have staked their entire holiday savings on the bet. So everybody is nervous. This happens when do you bet? When you just doubt your own strengths, when you don't believe as in what is going to happen. So GN and Anne Frank, these are the girls, and she is referring to the two boys, CN and Jacques, who have put their entire holiday pocket money, to say that if I pass you, then they are ready to pay that money. From morning to night, it's you are going to pass. No, I am not. Yes, you are. No one. This is a continuous discussion between the students, as in who is going to pass. Even G's pleading glances at my angry outbursts can't calm them down. And G is pleading glances. Glances means when you're looking someone at someone very firmly, indicating with open eyes, indicating that you have to stop. But that did not stop these classmates to bet. And sometimes Anne Frank used to angrily outburst. That means she used to scream to keep quiet, but that also did not stop. If you ask me, there are so many dummies that about a quarter of the class should be kept back. But teachers are the most unpredictable creatures on earth. So Anne Frank is confessing, and she's trying to say that everyone is so dummy means someone without brains, brainless, stupid. That nobody. She's trying to say that half of the class does not, almost quarter of the class does not um, deserve to pass, and they should be kept back in the same place. But at the same time, she is also confessing that teachers are very unpredictable. That means you do not know what is going to happen in the next moment. And she's trying to say you never know who will pass, because teachers are also, you don't know what is happening in their head. I'm not so worried about my girlfriends and myself. So Anne Frank is confessing that I'm not worried about the friends that we have in terms of girls, gender, in terms of gender. We'll make it. And she's trying to say that all the girls, I think, will pass. The only subject I'm not sure about is math. She's trying to say that I'm not confident about math as a subject. Anyway, all we can do is wait. And she knew that she's helpless. She cannot do anything about it, except just wait for the result. Until then, we keep telling each other not to lose heart. And she's trying to say that we just have to sit and wait for the results. Till the time we are just going to console each other, encourage each other to keep quiet. Now, I get along pretty well with all my teachers. There are 9 of them. And she is giving an introduction about all her subject teachers who teach Anne Frank. And she's trying to say that she has a very good rapport or relationship with all the teachers, all the 9, 7 men and 2 women. Mr. Keesing, the old foggy. Foggy means someone who's, it says, an old fashioned person, someone who's very old and he has old beliefs, dresses up in a very unfashionable way, I should say, who teaches maths, was annoyed with me for ages. And this gentleman, Mr. Keesing, was not happy with Anne Frank because I talk so much. And what was the reason why Mr. Keesing was unhappy? Because Anne Frank used to talk a lot in the class. She was very talkative. And after several warnings, he assigned me extra homework. And despite of the fact that Anne Frank was repeatedly told not to talk in the class, but she kept on doing so. So Anne Frank received an extra homework for as a form of a punishment, and an essay on the subject, a chatterbox. Chatterbox is a phrase referred to people who talk a lot, who yap a lot, I should say. So she had to write an essay on the topic a chatterbox. A chatterbox, what can you write about that? And she's asking in the diary entry, what are you supposed to write about chatting, about talking? I would worry about that later, I decided. She said, let me just worry about it later. But right now, I have to worry about whether I will pass or fail in the exams. I jotted down the title in my notebook. So she wrote down the topic that she's supposed to write on, tucked it in my bag, and tried to keep quiet. And she kept it very nicely in her bag and she kept quiet because that was her punishment. That evening, excuse me, after I had finished the rest of my homework, the note about the essay caught my eye. So while she was sitting at home and Anne is trying to remember how she remembers that she has to write an essay on the topic chatterbox after finishing her homework, I began thinking about a subject while chewing the tip of my fountain pen. Children usually do that. They keep on chewing the head of your pen, when you don't know what to do, when you are just blank. Anne Frank is also doing that. She's chewing the cap of her neck. Excuse me for my sore throat. So, anyone could ramble on and leave big spaces between the words. So she's trying to look at different tags as in how to fill up the pages. She said, let me leave a lot of space between 2 words, and let me just rewrite some rubbish, something just so that doesn't make sense. And but the trick was to come up with convincing arguments to prove the necessity of talking. You know, so it says that convincing argument means when you are trying to convince, when you're trying to prove that why talking is so important. So she's supporting the topic chatterbox. So she's trying to say that anyone can just write useless things, something that doesn't mean anything. But I have to write something which is very reasonable, something that makes sense, as in why writing is so important. Sorry, talking is so important. I thought and thought, and suddenly I had an idea. And Anne Frank is confessing that suddenly she had an idea about writing on the topic chatterbox. I wrote the 3 pages Mr. Casing had assigned me. She was given 3 pages to write on this topic, and she wrote it and was satisfied, and she was very happy with the results. I argued that talking is a student's trait. Trait means a character. A student cannot keep quiet, he has to talk. And that I would do my best to keep it under control. And she said in the end she convinced sorry she made sure that she promised that she'll try to control her talking habits in the class, but that I would never be able to cure myself of the habit since my mother talked as much as I did, if not more. So she also agreed that she may not be able to keep quiet completely in the class because a character that she inherited from her mother. As she was also trying to say, Anne Frank was also trying to say that her mother, Edith Frank, was very talkative. She loved to talk, and she has inherited this character from her mother. So she tried to say, I will try to control my talking habits, but I cannot stop it. And that there's not much you can do about inherited traits. And she also said that you cannot do about things that you get in your genes from your parents, from your mom or dad. These are the characters that my mother had, and that is why I also have the same characters. So inherited traits here, it says qualities that one gets from your parents. Mr. Keesing had a good laugh at my arguments, and Mr. Keesing, when Anne Frank went, she's trying to mention that when she went to school the next day, Mr. Keesing started laughing. But when I proceeded to talk my way through the next lesson, he assigned me a second essay. So when Anne Frank decided, and when she started talking again in the second class, she was giving another punishment, another essay to write on. This time it was supposed to be an incorrigible chatterbox. Incorrigible means something that cannot be corrected, something that cannot be rectified, something that cannot be fixed, someone who just remains like that. I handed it in, and Mr. Keesing had nothing to complain about for 2 whole lessons. And for 2 periods, Mr. Keesing did not say anything after she wrote on the same topic, on the second topic. However, during the third lesson, he had finally had enough. And because Anne Frank was continuously talking, she says, despite of the fact that she completed her 2 punishments, she was still talking. Anne Frank, as punishment for talking in the class, write an essay entitled Quack, 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 said Mistress Chatterbox. So she was given the third essay to write about quack, quack, quack. This is something that she was given as a punishment. The class roared. So roaring is the who usually roars. Lions roar. So in this term, it has been used in a symbolic way, trying to say that the whole class started shouting and screaming and laughing, together. And I had to laugh too. And Anne Frank confesses that she also started laughing, though I had nearly exhausted my ingenuity on the topic of chatterboxes. That means she's trying to say that I had finished all my thinking power to write on the same topic for the third time consecutively, and she had finished all her original ideas, she's trying to say. So it was time to come up with something else, something original, and she said, let me think about writing some, in a very original way. My friend San, who's good at poetry, offered to help me write the essay from beginning to end in verse, and I jumped for joy. So one of Anne Frank's friend offered to help her to write a poem on the topic chatterbox, again. And she was very happy and she agreed because she did not have any ideas to write it. And Mr. Keesing was trying to play a joke on me with this ridiculous subject, but I would make sure the joke was on him. And she thought that Mr. Keesing is trying to tease her by making her write on the same topic thrice. And she was determined to make sure that Mr. Keesing is made fun of. I finished my poem and it was beautiful. So now, for the fourth time, he wrote a poem. It was about a mother duck and a father swan with 3 baby ducklings who were bitten to death by the father because they quacked too much. So this was a poem about a family, a duck and a swan and 3 ducklings who were killed by her father because they used to quack a lot. Basically, in terms of the literal meaning is talk a lot. Luckily, Mr. Keesing took the joke the right way, and he took it very seriously. He read the poem to the class, adding his own comments, and to several other classes as well. So he read the same poem in other classes also, as well as in Anne Frank's class, and he gave a feedback also. Since then, I have been allowed to talk and haven't been assigned any extra homework. On the contrary, Mr. Keesing's always making jokes these days. So it was Mr. Keesing who was inspired, and he started becoming more jovial and humorous rather than Anne Frank. So this is the end of the extract, a small extract from the autobiography, The Diary of a Young Girl. We'll do the comprehension part, four questions, and then we'll discuss the question answers in the next class.